Okay, in Tanya, we're middle of Perek Dalid. Um, on the top is page 16, at the bottom is page 16, and we're going to start 3 lines from the bottom of the page, if you're following in Tanya. In Perek Dalid, the Alter Rebbe explained that in addition to the 10 levels of the soul, 3 intellect and 7 emotions, there's also the 3 garments, which are thought, speech, and action. Because we're talking about the godly soul, we're talking about thought, speech, and action of the godly soul, which means thought of Torah, speech of Torah, action of Torah. And then the Rebbe explained, Alter Rebbe explained that the garments are even greater than the soul. Why? Because Torah is one with Hashem. So therefore, if you have thought of Torah, speech of Torah, action of Torah, it's mamish one with Hashem. So therefore, it's even greater than the neshama. So last week we discussed, 2 weeks ago, we discussed in great length. But the question is, the neshama is also part of Hashem. And we discussed there's a difference between the neshama that's in the body or the neshama that's not in the body. The neshama that's in the body is not as great as Torah. Therefore, we need Torah to connect us to Hashem. The neshama that's pre-body, that's a higher level than the neshama that comes into the body, Chayi Yechida, that is greater than Torah. Okay, so this we're up now. Oh, so therefore, the Alter Rebbe says that even though Torah comes from that super infinite level of Hashem, and it comes down into this world, but Torah is likened to water, just like water comes down from a high place to a low place, and it's the same water, the same way Torah down here remains its in sanctity and its holiness, even though it comes into physical objects of mitzvahs, even though Torah comes ink on parchment, physical ink and physical parchment, nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe is explaining this is infinite greatness of godliness down here. Okay, and therefore he says like this. No, I'm sorry, 1 line before that. 3.5 lines from the end of the page. And since Torah and its mitzvah, Malbishim kol eser bechinas hanefesh, encompasses and dresses into all the 10 powers of the soul. Remember, these are garments. So they're garments of the soul. So the soul is enclosed within the 3 garments of thought, speech, and action. But it encloses it, Mereisha v'adragla, from head to toe. And like we learned last time, there's 248 positive mitzvahs corresponding with every limb in the person's body, and the veins and so on. So what happens when a person learns Torah and a person does mitzvahs? Harikula, the entire nefesh is bound. B'tzrura Chaim, in the bond of life, as Hashem mamish godliness. V'erd Hashem mamish makifa umalbisha, and therefore, because in other words, we are in this garment, so we're inside of Hashem, and Hashem obviously is surrounding us. Bereisha v'adragla, like it says, Suri, Hashem is my rock. I'll take refuge in Him, meaning we are in Hashem. And next page, Uksiv, like it says, Katsina, Ratzin Tatrena, like the will encompasses you like a shield. Shiratzayne v'chachmasa yizbarach, which is the will of Hashem, which are mitzvahs. V'chachmasa yizbarach, and the chachma of Hashem, hamlubashim b'terase u'mitzvisa, which are included in Torah mitzvahs. What's the Alter Rebbe saying? You will understand it better as we go on. But right now, the Alter Rebbe is saying, because Torah mitzvahs are synonymous with Hashem. And Hashem in Torah is one, Hashem in mitzvahs are one. Hashem in His wisdom are one, Hashem in His will is one. Therefore, when a person does a mitzvah, man, woman, child, anybody, does a mitzvah, they are bound in the essence of Hashem. Because Torah is the essence of Hashem, mitzvahs are the essence of Hashem, we're bound to the essence of Hashem. And I want to just mention one more word before we go further. The beginning of the 10 Commandments, the Seres Dibris, is Anechi Hashem Elokecha. I am God, your God. So the Gemara in Shabbos, not in the Gemara about the story of Matan Torah, but later on in the Gemara Shabbos, the Gemara says that Anechi, the word Aleph, Nun, Chof, Yud, I am God, your God, is an acronym. What is the acronym of Anechi? Ana, Nafshi, Ksavis, Yohavis. Okay? Aleph is Ana means I, Nafshi, myself, Ksavis wrote it, Yohavis gave it. That's the acronym for Anechi. That's what the Gemara says. What is the simple meaning of the Gemara? The simple meaning of the Gemara is that Hashem says, I myself wrote the book and gave the book. Meaning I'm the author and I gave it to you. The Alter Rebbe defines it much, much, much deeper. The Alter Rebbe takes the same words but defines it deeper. The Alter Rebbe says it doesn't mean I myself wrote the book and gave the book. The Alter Rebbe says what it means is I wrote myself and gave myself. There's very profound, a very big difference if I wrote the book and gave it the book, or as the Alter Rebbe interpreted it to mean, I myself gave myself and wrote myself, which means that in Torah and in mitzvahs, Hashem put his essence in there. And therefore, when a Jew learns Torah, they are connecting, as we'll soon learn, to the essence of Hashem. There's a story with the Rebbe Rashab when he was learning Chassidus. I think I mentioned it in this class, but the previous Rebbe was a baby sleeping in the crib, and the Rebbe Rashab, his father, was learning Chassidus with a Chassid, and they finished learning and they walked by the crib, and the Chassid mentioned to the Rebbe Rashab, he was an only child, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he says, "Wow, it's such a beautiful baby." And the Rebbe Rashab says, "I had an urge to give him a kiss, but I didn't. I went out, wrote a Hasidic discourse, and then when the Frierdiker Rebbe got older, the Rebbe Rashab gave him the discourse, the Maimer, and he said, 'This is a Hasidic kush. This is a Hasidic kiss.'" And the Rebbe explained the story once by a Fabrengen, more than once. The Rebbe explained the story very profoundly. The Medrash says in Rus and many other places, Tzadikim daimim lebeiram. Tzadikim are similar to their creator. And therefore the Rebbe says, just like Hashem, based on the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, put himself, his essence into Torah, the Rebbe explained, when a Rebbe says a Maimer, the Rebbe is putting his essence into the Maimer. Not his revelations, as we'll soon learn, not essence. The Rebbe puts his essence into the Maimer. And the Rebbe says like this, what's a kiss? A kiss is a sign, not one of those kisses. I'm talking a real kiss. A real kiss is a sign of love. But it's very external. It's a very external sign of love. It's not the essence. The Rebbe Rashab wanted to give his kid a kiss, but he said, why should I give him an external kiss? He went out and wrote a mimer which he put his essence into, and then when he gave it to the Frierdiker Rebbe, he says, this is an essential love. This is an essential Chassidic kiss, not an external kiss. Okay, so then he says like this. Based on what we just explained, therefore the Chacham say in Pirkei Avos, Yosef Shachas b'tshuva ma'asim tovim b'olam hazeh. 1 hour literally means 1 hour, but it doesn't mean an hour. It means one turning, one commitment of tshuva ma'asim tovim b'olam hazeh, of tshuva and good deeds in this world, is better mikol chaya elam haba, better than the whole world to come, better than Gan Eden. What does the Mishnah say? In fact, we discussed this Shabbos by Pirkei Avos a little bit, but the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos a paradox. The Mishnah starts off with Rabbi Yaakov was the one that said it. And he says, 1 hour of tshuva ma'asim tevim in this world is better than the whole Olam Haba. And then he says, and 1 hour of bliss in Olam Haba is better than this whole world. So the commentators have a field day with this. It's a paradox, it's contradiction. What is better? Here we're saying 1 minute of tshuva ma'asim tevim in this world is better than the whole Olam Haba. And then we say 1 hour of bliss of Olam Haba is better than this whole world. But the Alter Rebbe is answering it here. What is Olam Haba? The Alter Rebbe says. The Gemara says, what is Olam Haba? What is Gan Eden? Tzadikim yeshvim. Tzadikim, this is what the Gemara says, the expression. Tzadikim yeshvim. Tzadikim sit. Ba'atrisayim b'rosheim, their crowns are on their head. V'nehenim miziv hashchina. They enjoy the ray of the Shechina. So what is Gan Eden? Gan Eden, Alter Rebbe says, Olam Haba is only shenehenim miziv hashchina. They benefit from the ray of the Shechina. And what does benefit mean? Alter Rebbe says, Shutainug hasaga. It's the enjoyment of understanding. Because the neshama is bodiless in Gan Eden, neshama's godliness is revealed. So when the neshama is basking in the ray of godliness, it means they're understanding, the neshama is understanding godliness. And he says, I'm going to explain, I'll read another line. The avshel shum nivra afilim el yenim, even the highest creations. It's impossible for the highest creations to understand. Only they could only get a ray of Hashem. Therefore, it's called Ziv HaShechina. Let me explain this as follows. Very simple. Gan Eden is a great place. What's greatness of Gan Eden? You're basking in godliness. But what can a creation of Hashem bask in? Only a ray of the Shechina. If you're talking about understanding, godliness, it's a ray. A creation, even a neshama, has a certain limit amount that it's able to understand. So what's the advantage of Gan Eden over this world? They get a ray of the Shechina only, but they get it, they feel it. What's the advantage of this world? The advantage of this world, Alter Rebbe is explaining over here, is when a person does one mitzvah, one learning of Torah, they connect to the essence of Hashem, not to the ray of Hashem. They are connecting with the essence of Hashem. And therefore, anytime a Jew does a mitzvah, they're connected. The Rebbe had a very interesting approach in Kiruv. The Rebbe said, you meet a Jew in the street, don't go into discussions, into debates, into philosophical things. Do a mitzvah with him. Get him to light Shabbos candles, get her to light Shabbos, get him to put on tefillin, get him to do a mitzvah. Why? The second they do a mitzvah, they're hooked, they're connected. And then you could deal with them differently, because now they have a connection. So it's like this. This world, you're connected to the essence, but we don't feel it. You do a mitzvah, nobody feels, only you see. Ray godliness. Gan Eden, you feel it, but you only have a ray. So therefore, it's not a paradox. It's not a contradiction. When the Mishnah says 1 minute, one tshuva ma'asim tevim in this world is better than the whole world to come, is very simple. Here you get essence, and here you got ray. But then the Mishnah says, but in bliss, in feeling, because now we don't feel it. So now Gan Eden, granted it's a ray, but you at least feel it. And guess what? When Mashiach comes and there's Tchias HaMeisim, that what's going to happen is the essence will be revealed. In other words, we'll have the advantage of both worlds. We'll have essence, but completely revealed. Not a ray, the essence of Hashem. Right now, we need to do Torah mitzvahs because that's what connects us to Hashem, and that's what connects the world to Hashem. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says that's even the greatest thing a Jew could do. You do a mitzvah, you do tshuva ma'asim tovim, or you learn Torah, you're connecting to the essence, which there is no other way of doing it. Gan Eden doesn't have it. And therefore, by the way, it says, the tzaddikim, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu, are sitting in Gan Eden. Chassidus says this expression. They're sitting in Gan Eden 3,000 years to come back down in a body with Tchias HaMesim, because over there in Gan Eden for 3,000 years, they're having a lot of rays. They're in an unbelievable amount of rays, but it's only rays. Those are the Shams are waiting for Tchias HaMesim, because when Mashiach comes, it'll be Tchias HaMesim. The essence of Hashem will be revealed in a way that we feel it. But now the Alter Rebbe says, therefore, based on what we're explaining, that Torah is one with Hashem, and they're the garments, and the garment goes on top, we go into the garment, and the garment is surrounding us. So therefore now we can understand, the Chazal say, that 1 minute Tshuva Ma'asim Tovim in this world is better than the whole Olam Haba, because Olam Haba, Gan Eden, is only a ray of the Shekhinah, and this is the essence. But like he says, in Gan Eden is only the ray of the Shekhinah. Avol HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvedi v'atzmei, but Hashem Himself in His glory, les machshava tfise beklal, no mind can grasp Hashem, only kasher tfisa umislabeshes b'teira mitzvah, only when it connects through Torah and mitzvahs, then Azahi tfisa behem, then he grasps him. Umislabeshes ba'kadosh baruch hu mamish, and he dresses as what's this garment? This garment we said is Hashem, right? The garment, the Torah mitzvahs. So therefore, a person is dressed in Hashem. Because Torah and God are all one. So this is the greatness of a Jew doing a mitzvah. In the next paragraph, the Rebbe is going to explain Torah is even, learning Torah is even greater than this. But now the Alter Rebbe says, you do a mitzvah, you're connecting to the essence. Not the Gan Eden, which is only a ray. But now he asks, for 1 minute, but what do you mean I'm hugging God or God's hugging me? Torah is dealing with physical objects. He says, nevertheless, it doesn't matter. It's like somebody hugs a king. Somebody hugs a king. That what? She'ein hefesh, there's no difference. There's no difference in the closeness, in the connection to the king. Whether you hug the king, if he's wearing one garment, whether he's wearing many garments. It's like the Alter Rebbe is saying a very simple mashal. If you hug your children, but they're going to school in the winter, they're wearing a coat. So they're wearing underwear and shirts and pants or dresses, and then they're wearing a sweater and a coat, and you hug the kid. So are you hugging the kid? Not really. Technically, you're hugging the coat. But why are you hugging your kid? Because what's in that stuff? In the middle of all that is the kid. He says, if you're hugging a king, what's the difference how many garments the king is wearing? Or if the king is hugging you with his arm, even if the king is wearing many garments, it doesn't matter. Because what's in it? It's the king. So meaning like this, a Jew puts on tefillin or light Shabbos candles. So you have leather and you have a candle. So you say, okay, God is in that candle, God is in the tefillin. So how can I say I'm dressed into God? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the king is wearing one physical garment, two physical garments. Bottom line is, who's hugging you? The king. Whom are you hugging? You're hugging the king. So what's the difference if he has one, two, three? It doesn't really matter. You're hugging the king, and that's really what matters. Like it says, where do we see that it's called hugging? Like it says in the pasuk, V'yaminoi, that his right hand techabgeni hugs me. The pasuk in Shir Hashirim, that Hashem's right hand hugs me. Which, what does it mean, God's right hand? What is God's right hand? God doesn't have a hand. What does it mean? It refers to Torah, shenitna miyamin, which is given on the right side, because Torah is chesed and mayim. Like we say, Torah is chesed, in Eishes Chayil, Torah is chesed al Shena. Torah is chesed. Torah is like unto mayim, which is chesed. So therefore, when the pasuk Shir Hashirim, Shlomo Melech says, he's hugging me with his right hand, what does that mean? Hashem hugs me with his Torah. Torah is the garment of thought, speech, and action. So when I learn Torah, I do a mitzvah. Hashem is literally hugging me. I mean, not physically, but figuratively, Hashem is hugging me. What happens when you hug somebody? You become one. You become connected. And therefore, this is the Maila, the greatness of Torah and mitzvahs. And now the Alter Rebbe continues in Parakeh. Because he just quoted what it says in Pasach Eliyahu, which is from Eliyahu Navi. And Eliyahu Navi says the expression, Les machshava tfisei bei. No mind can grasp you. Okay? That's what tfisa is, grasping. So he says in Parakeh, the taste is be'er hativ, to explain even better. Lashon tfisa, the expression of grabbing. The Omer Eliyahu, what Eliyahu Navi said, no mind. Tfisa, which over here means no mind can comprehend you, no mind can grasp you. He says like this. In a kol seichel, any intellectual concept, shemaskil umasig b'sichle eza muskel. You know, I'm going to say this outside because, and then we'll see it inside and we'll get it much better. When I learn something, and here the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, there's a certain uniqueness of intellect that nothing else has. When I have a cup of water, and the water is in the cup. The cup is not in the water. What unity is there between the cup and the water that's in it is they're united, they're one. But the water is in the cup is not in the water. There's one exception to that, and that is intellect. And I'm going to explain it outside, and then we'll see it inside. When I learn something, forget Torah for a minute. I learn science, medicine, physics. When I study, what I am learning is in my brain. I have it, it's in my brain. Which means my brain is surrounding what I'm studying. Yet at the same time, while you're learning science, you cannot learn something else. Why can't you learn something else? Because your mind is in the science. It's remarkable, think about it. I'm studying math. The math is in my head, but at the same time, my head is in the math. Therefore, I can't learn something else at the same time. So when it comes to intellect, it's not like water in a cup, but the cup is not in the water. With intellect, the knowledge is in your head, and your head is in the knowledge. Okay, now, let's extrapolate this a little bit. If this knowledge that you're learning is Torah, and Torah, we just got through saying, is one with Hashem. Hashem put his essence into Torah. Torah is God's essence. So just think about it. When I study Torah, God is in me and I'm in God. So it's not a unity like water in a cup or furniture in a room. The unity that exists when a person studies has a tremendous effect in double unity, double whammy as it's called. The Torah is in you and you are in the Torah. Now, if you change the word Torah for Hashem, because Hashem and Torah are one, that means God is in you and you're in God. Is there a greater unity than that? It's even more than a mitzvah. A mitzvah, I do with my hand. So the tefillin are on my hand, but my hand is not on the tefillin.
But the kavanah.
The kavanah, that's not the action of the mitzvah. The only time we find this double level of unity is by learning Torah. Obviously, by the way, this applies to any knowledge, which shows that if a person studies non-kosher learning, like other Greek religions, other philosophies, things that Torah says you're not allowed to learn, it's very detrimental. Why is it very detrimental? Because you are in the Avodah Zarah, and the Avodah Zarah is in you. So how much negative impact does that have? Just like in the positive way, that when a person studies Torah, the Torah is in him and they're in the Torah, so chas v'shalom, in a negative type of learning, it's double whammy in the negative. Therefore, people have to be very careful with what they learn, because that affects the mind in a level of unity that you are united with the thing you're studying from both perspectives. And that can't be. But here the Alter Rebbe is talking about the level of seichel. And again, I'm going to leave it here because now it goes into the whole thing. But the Alter Rebbe is explaining that when Eliyahu Navi says, no mind can comprehend you, that's not referring to a Jew studying Torah. That's Machshav. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain. He said that before. Kiyim, the only way you could is when you're grasping Torah, because then you grasp Hashem. What we're learning is very limited on my level and his level and her level, and it's extremely, extremely, extremely limited. It doesn't matter. Because every aspect of Torah is the essence of Hashem. Whether it's the simple meaning, Pshat, Remez, Rush, it doesn't matter. It's all the essence of Hashem. And therefore, when a person does Torah mitzvahs, and more so by Torah, because Torah are not garments, Torah you internalize in your brain. Mitzvahs are called garments. Torah is called lechem, because Torah you digest in your brain. It's internal. That internal connection through Torah is greater than the connection through mitzvahs. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe thing, that's why Torah is the most, Talmud Torah equals all the mitzvahs. Okay, we're going to finish in Mitzvah Shem Monday again. For those that came late, the class is starting now from now on at 8 o'clock. Monday, we'll have probably a discussion, and I don't know, instead of Pasha, we'll probably talk Rosh Hashanah. And Wednesday night will probably be a little bit halacha of Rosh Hashanah that needs to be known, and Tanya. So everybody should have a good evening and a very good end of a week.
Amen.
And a very good preparation for a new year.
All the best.
Thank
you.
you.
Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.